Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
This is Arts Beat Radio, and I'm Mark Auerbach here at 89.5 FM WSKB with Peter Coles in the studio. The music you hear in the background is the overture to the musical The Drowsy Chaperone, a Broadway hit of 2006, which begins performances tonight at Goodspeed Musicals down in East Haddam, Connecticut. Today we're going to spend the entire hour at Arts Beat Radio talking with two actors from the Berkshire Theater Group who are about to star in Pirandello's play Naked, directed by Eric Hill. I'm so excited to be able to welcome Tara Franklin and James Barry, who are actually up in the Berkshires this morning getting ready to rehearse and talking to us by phone. I've seen them in performances over the years, many of them at Berkshire Theater Group, but Tara Franklin has done some memorable work. She was in The Zoo Story last year, also directed by Eric Hill. The Homecoming, the season before, directed by Eric Hill. James Barry directed $1 Million Quartet at Berkshire Theater Group, and which was one of the best musicals I've seen up there. And a couple of weeks ago was starring at Chester Theater down the road in a play called The Aliens, and Chester Theater and The Aliens were just written up in New Yorker magazine. So it's a real pleasure to welcome both Tara and James to Arts Beat Radio. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mark. Thanks.
When does Naked open, and when did you guys start rehearsals?
We begin previews on September 27th. We've got a couple of days of previews after Tech, and then we open on September 29th, and then run through the month of October, performing Thursday through Sunday.
Is this the first time the two of you have appeared on stage together?
I guess, when was Sister Play, Sarah?
That was in the summer of 2016, and that was at Chester. And before that, I think that the last time we had performed together was maybe the Missons Broke back in, that was a long
15
time
years ago
yeah.
at the Berkshire Theater Festival.
Now, both of you are often at Berkshire Theater Group. What drew you or continues to draw you to do the majority of your work there?
Well, I think I can't speak for Tara, but I have a feeling we both feel extremely lucky to have this sort of artistic home at Berkshire Theater Group, and now at Chester. It's a real blessing to have a couple of venues like that relatively in our backyard that, continue to want to work with us and offer us these challenging roles and help us to continue to grow as artists. So I'm just grateful that we've got fun, cool, exciting places to do this innovative work. I'm very, very lucky to be in this position. I do not take it for granted, or at least I try not to.
What drew you to the play Naked?
A phone call from Kate McGuire. I think it's fascinating. It's written by Pirandello sort of near the end of his career. It's one of his later plays, and it's sort of, and he chooses melodrama, like classic 3-act melodrama, as the vehicle for this. And it's sort of right on the cusp in theater history. Theater of the absurd is just about to assert itself. And Ionesco, who's very influenced by Pirandello, he's about to start, doing the innovative work that he did. So it's really kind of straddling that line. And I find that is a fascinating place to be.
Now, it's a play that people around here probably have never seen. Certainly, it's not the best known of Pirandello's plays, but Kate McGuire said that when she was planning the 90th season of Berkshire Theater Group, and Eric Hill has said also on the air in choosing shows that the show has a certain resonance today. Does it feel contemporary when you're doing it, or do you feel like you're approaching a classic?
Speaking for myself, I feel it's very timely. I think it fits right into the modern world. This was a modern world play for Pirandello when he wrote it, and I think that a lot of the themes still hold, in fact, resonate even stronger, especially with what's going on in politics and with sort of the treatment of women in our society. I think that there's a lot of themes that, yes, still hold, still ring true, and I think that's why it's an important play to do now. It's not well known, and that's always exciting too, because you're introducing audiences to something that hopefully they can really sink their teeth into and talk about it. We're trying to do this as a play where I think it's just going to sort of hit the audience, and they're not going to be able to really have time to think about what's going on, and then hopefully they get into their cars and on their way home they have a lot to talk about.
Can you give us a Cliff Notes version of what Naked is about?
Sure. It begins. This is hard because I don't want to give too much away. But so Ercilia, who's the main character played by Sarah, she has just attempted suicide, and it was unsuccessful. And she has, a journalist has visited her in the hospital and gotten the scoop or her version of what happened, what led her to this. And all of the men that are sort of involved in her life from before come out of the woodwork to try and fix things for their own egocentric, selfish interests in the wake of this tragic event. And a writer, a fiction writer, writes a letter to her and sort of becomes the muse of her story and offers her shelter. So the play begins with her sort of moving in with this writer and the gossipy housekeeper, vacillating between being furious that he's let this street woman into a reputable house, and then once she finds out, reads the newspaper article and finds out everything that's going on with her, she turns on a dime and becomes, the saint-like savior of her. And really, it's about, I think, how everyone around this poor woman, Ercilia, played by Sarah, gets swept up in all these weird versions of lies and truth, but they're always looking out for themselves and for their own version of what they want to happen, what's going to be best for them and their egos, and no one really cares about her. And so she's just lost. She's with the eye of this ridiculous, pompous hurricane.
How long before you started rehearsals did you get familiar with the script and the background on it? Did you do a lot of research, or did you basically walk into the first rehearsal with a totally open mind about the characters and the play?
Well, James and I both knew that we were going to do this play this was in the spring. I think Kate had come to us and said, this is going to be the fall show. Are you guys, first of all, are you interested? And then do you have the time? And it just worked out that this was a great spot in our schedule. And so I've had the play, we both had the play since probably April, I'm guessing, back then. And so, in terms of doing research, you can read about Pirandello, and there's some, some great reading to do about the history in that time. This is right after World War I, what was happening in Europe at that time. But ultimately, for me, I just read the play as often as I can. I think I got it, and then I was working on another play in May and June for Chester, so I kind of had to put this on the back burner during that time because I can multitask, but that was just that was a lot.
Teach me how.
I know. And so so when that was over, I was able to sort of just have this script, and I just read it every day. And every time I read it, I glean something. And then now that we're, into our third week of rehearsal, it just, and our lines are memorized, and now we can just focus on story and physicality and the energy needed to create this heightened piece.
And when I look at the list of people that are in the cast of Naked, it includes David Atkins, Haley Aguero, Jeff Dornbos, Barbara Simpson, Rocco Sisto. It appears that all of you, at some point or another, have worked together with Eric Hill at Berkshire Theater Group. Am I correct there?
Actually, I don't think any of us, except for Eric, has worked with Jeffrey. He's new, and he's a wonderful actor, and just a perfect part of this company, which is so fortunate. I've worked with Barbara before only because when I was doing Lion in Winter, she actually understudied for Jane Atkinson in the role of Eleanor, and it's just an absolute delight to work with and be in rehearsal with. So I feel so lucky that we can actually share a whole show experience with her. And of course, David and I have worked together a few times, and Rocco and I for Homecoming. And Haley is new for me too, and she's wonderful. I know she's been in some of the summer musicals that they've done at the Colonial. She's great. She brings such this great fresh energy to it. And of course, Eric and I go way back. So it feels sort of like a magical group of people that have assembled to do this incredibly difficult but incredibly important story. So I'm speaking for myself, but I feel extremely fortunate. And of course, I get to see James every day outside of rehearsal, so this is just extra.
It's great. You bring up a cool point about company. It's the fact that everybody has worked with Eric, even if they haven't worked with each other. Everyone we share a vocabulary, and there's a common language, and everyone kind of gets it. And Eric's style and attention to this piece is exactly the energy we need. This is I can't imagine anybody else directing this piece. So it's really, there's a reason it doesn't get done a lot. It's really difficult, and we are really sort of in the trenches of this one together, and it's so rewarding.
Who picked the piece? Was it Kate or was it Eric? How did this piece come to Berkshire Theater? Do you guys know?
I don't really know. I have a feeling that, it's between the two of them that, it seems like a perfect way to end the season, and absolutely, and it is. It's just shockingly resonant. Stylistically, it may seem like a throwback to a bygone era, but thematically, we are living in it right now. The endless news cycle, no one knows who's telling the truth. It's shocking how much it resonates.
Especially with what's going on in the news right now. I couldn't help but think, I've read a synopsis of Naked, but as I was driving in here to work this morning, I was listening to Morning Edition on NPR, and just realizing that so much of what we're living with day by day by day is thought about and was conceived in this play that took place almost a century ago, that questions some of the stuff that we have to live with minute by minute.
Oh, yes. I think that's absolutely right. And I think that is going to really draw the audience in. To an otherwise very, very difficult piece that I don't think a lot of people are willing to approach. But I think Eric is directing this with such a specific and fine-tuned approach, and the cast is just so good. I really think that it's going to really be a memorable night of theater for the audience. Maybe, not summer jolly fluff. So it's not without its laughs. The play is really funny. That's something else I should say to everyone who's listening. It's actually really funny, and then it turns on a dime, and it's brutal. And the amount of energy, the quality of energy that's required of the performers to maintain that for the play from beginning to end is just exhausting. Sarah and I get home every night, and we're like, oh man, I feel like I got hit by a train. It was only a 6-hour rehearsal. What's going on? We've been at 11 all day.
Yeah. Now we know who Tara is in Naked. What character do you play, James?
I play Franco La Spiga, who had an affair, a brief fling with her, and said that he would marry her, and then ran away. In the play, it's described as ran away like the little mama's boy that he is, and went back to his fiancée, that he neglected to tell Cecilia that he was engaged. So, and then when he finds out that she tried to commit suicide, he flips out, goes into full repentance remorse mode, and tries to win her back. So, but not because he really cares about her, it seems, but because that's what he thinks his duty is, to make things right. And he needs to be this sort of white knight in shining armor and save her. All of a sudden, now that she's hit rock bottom, So he's very, very just selfish, over the top, full of romantic bravado. He's described by one character as ardor incarnate. So it's a lot of fun to play the part.
Okay, we're talking with James Barry and Tara Franklin, two of the great actors at Berkshire Theatre Group, who are co-starring in the upcoming production of Luigi Pirandello's Naked, which begins performances next week and runs through October 28th at the Unicorn Theatre at the Berkshire Theatre Group's Stockbridge campus. We're going to take a brief break to acknowledge the underwriters of Arts Beat Radio, and then we'll be back more with James and Tara. We're going to learn about their backgrounds, how they got together, and more. So don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Wednesday mornings start off right from 6 to 8 a.m. with Tina Gorman and Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Welcome back, everyone, to Arts Beat Radio. This is Mark Auer back here in the studio with Peter Coles at WSKB. We're on the campus this morning of Westfield State University, and we're talking on the phone with James Barry and Tara Franklin. And as drama comes into any radio program, I don't know which of the two we're talking to because one of the couple had to take a child to school. So who's on the line?
It's me, Mark. It's James.
So there's drama in real life. A married couple that gets to work together on stage, that doesn't happen that often unless you're Lunt and Fontanne.
It's such a blessing in our lives. I mean, it creates, a little bit of stress with childcare. Also, life wasn't tough enough, so we just got 2 puppies. So we're just kind of out of our minds right now. But we're having so much great help from our family and from our new neighbors in our new neighborhood that we moved into. We're so lucky, and it's really taking a village right now, and we're so grateful.
Now, I know Tara's taking your son to school, and Tara grew up in the Berkshires. Where are you from?
I grew up in northeastern Connecticut, close to the University of Connecticut. So I lived in Ashford, Mansfield, Willimantic, towns in what they call the quiet corner. So I grew up seeing cultural stuff in Boston and Providence, Rhode Island, more than New York City.
How and where did the two of you meet?
Well, we met pretty much at the Berkshire Theater Festival. We were both in a play that Eric Hill directed in the summer of 2000 called The Einstein Project on the Unicorn Stage. And we were friends for years, and then we started dating, maybe in, oh God, she's going to kill me when she hears this later, in 2003, and then we got married in 2009, and here we are.
And you don't get a chance to work that often together, but you do get a chance to work in the theaters. I mean, both of you have performed at Chester. Both of you have performed separately at Berkshire Theater Group. What makes the area here in Western Massachusetts a good place for you guys to live and work?
Oh, there's so many reasons. I mean, she feels a strong connection to the area because it's her home base, and ever since I started showing up here to work, nearly 20 years ago now, in the summers, I fell in love with the area and was totally smitten. And then after 10 years grinding it out in Brooklyn and doing the New York City thing, it just seemed like a great place to, have our kids go to school and be closer to family. And since we are so lucky to have these deepening relationships with a couple of theaters in the area, we just thought we'd give it a shot, and it has been absolutely the best decision we've made. It's just wonderful. Again, we're so lucky to have these connections and friendships at these theaters, which give us these amazing opportunities to work and keep, exercising those theatrical muscles and a majority of the work I've been doing with $1 Million Quartet and other shows, these Paper Bullets with the new neighborhood theater company that I'm a member of, I was paying to live in New York and I was never there. I'd be working in, wherever, Wisconsin or California or Connecticut or, it could be anywhere. So it's just really nice to have our zip code be this beautiful, bucolic one with this vibrant arts community of its own, and all the great cultural things the Berkshires have to offer, and we just feel like it's a win-win for us.
Now, I probably can ask you this question because Tara's driving your son to school, but you came on the show back in the summer, and we had a chance to talk about your non-theater career and your career in music. And you said at the time that you were working, and if I remember correctly, that you were working on some new music and either editing it or recording it down in Holyoke, and had plans to release it at some point. So thought I would ask you how that's coming along.
Oh, it's coming along really well. Thank you. And very generous of you to refer to my musical pursuits as a career. I hope that one day it truly is. I spent 5 days with my friend Sean McCowan, who's a great songwriter and guitarist. The two of us have been making music together for 15 years, maybe more. And we try and get together every few years to do a project together. And we spent 5 days at Ghost Pit Recording Studio in Holyoke, Mass, with Andrew Odell, who's a terrific engineer and mixer. And we got about 8 new songs down there. And then in January, a drummer that we've worked with in the past, he's going to come up from his home in Pennsylvania, and we're going to record the sort of big, loud rockers with him. And then hopefully February, March, we'll have something out there. We're called Secret Pint, and you can find our first record, which is called Northern Rock, on Bandcamp and Spotify. It's just free and streamable. There's no tangible copies of that one right now. But if anyone wants to check out Secret Pint, it's there for the streaming on Spotify. And this record has already taken a much different turn. It's a lot more, we keep joking that we're falling as we're hovering around 40, as we're writing dad rock now. It's getting a little mellower. We're not so angry. But it's kind of a wistful, whimsical recording. It's we're playing with some really strange sounds and a lot more sort of plaintive arrangements. It's been really, really fun. And Sean McCown and Andrew Odell are both really smart, witty guys to collaborate with. So we're all feeding each other cool energy.
Did you realize that we had engineers and studios and things like that you can actually make a good recording in Western Massachusetts, or was that a surprise?
Well, we knew that I've always been a fan of bands from the Pioneer Valley. I grew up in high school. I was kind of obsessed with Dinosaur Jr. and Sebadoh. A lot of these bands from Amherst and, the Pixies. And so I knew that there was a theme. And there is a great recording studio in Amherst called Northfire, which is where we met up with Andrew Odell. And then he opened up his own studio in Holyoke, which is why we worked there. We just really loved working with him 3 years ago. So we took the plunge into his Holyoke gigs, and it was just a beautiful space. So, yeah, I think I wish that there were. I think we talked about this before. I wish there were rehearsal studios around in Western Mass. If you're out there and you have the means, please open a rehearsal studio for rock bands. Pittsfield, North Adams, somewhere, Westfield. We can do it.
No, there should be. I mean, I deal with a lot of people that are in film and video, and am finding that there are so many editing studios and so many opportunities here that most people don't realize exist. And as long as there is open space in these old factories, whether it's in Holyoke or North Adams, they could be turned into very vital things like recording and rehearsal studios, because there are so many of us in the creative economy that live and work here.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it starts happening. And now that, we've got so many, the music festivals have taken off and are so successful at Massimoka, between Fresh Grass and Solid Sound, I would think also maybe some of those bands, when there's like hundreds of bands descend on the area in the summer, maybe they'd like a place to hang out and rehearse and all that stuff too. It seems like it would be a natural fit. And I hope it happens. And if I'm just ignorant and I don't know if it's there, if anyone out there is listening, please write into the show or tell me where it is.
No, I totally agree. Were you surprised to see the New Yorker article this week about the Chester Theater and see your photograph from the Aliens as part of it? I think for a small little theater company in the area to get national presence like that is very exciting.
Oh, it was totally exciting. Yeah, I had no idea. I was actually out to dinner with Tara and Sam and some family of my mom and her dad and stepmom. We were having this great dinner. We were out at Desperados in North Adams. And I got a text from Daniel L.E. Kramer and said, "Hey, open this link." And I clicked on it. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I was totally surprised. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great that theater it's been doing such great work for so many years. It makes me really proud that it's getting more national recognition. I think it's wonderful.
You know, you sort of expect the national recognition that Berkshire Theater Group gets. I mean, it's been around for 90 years and has really been a benchmark. And you expect it from the Williamstown Theater Festival or Barrington Stage, which are the three major arts groups in Western Massachusetts. But Chester, which has been around for quite a while, has just kind of floated under the radar. And it seems that in the last couple of years, under the direction of Daniel L. Kramer, it's getting national prominence and doing real interesting things. I mean, I found The Aliens to be kind of an exciting opportunity to watch some great acting in such a small space, and you don't get that very often.
Yeah, it's a place I love to work. I mean, these are my two favorite places to work. You know, the Berkshire Theater Festival and Chester, and the quality that gets turned out at these places season after season is, I mean, all these theaters deserve these accolades. That is no small feat, you know. And I'm so grateful to be a small part of it and help make the art. You know, I'm absolutely thrilled that positive attention has been shown on the Chester Theater Company, and to continue working with the Berkshire Theater Group and their tremendous legacies. It's just so cool to be a part of that.
Now, you've had a chance to direct at Berkshire Theater Group, and I think $1 Million Quartet was certainly one of their blockbusters of all times that they've been able to do. Have you had a chance to direct at any of the other theaters, or was that just kind of like a first opportunity?
I haven't. Maybe about 10 years ago or so, I directed a musical at Undermountain Elementary School in Sheffield. I did Disney's Aladdin there. Travis Bailey, who directs the shows at the Colonial, Tarzan, and those shows, he's a friend of mine, and he actually gave me that job 10 years ago, and that was a great challenge. And then I directed some one acts with my friend's theater company in New York, but I've never really had an opportunity to go full on professional director mode, and it was amazing that Kate gave me that opportunity in the Unicorn to do $1 Million Quartet. I was beside myself, and I'm getting ready to direct the second play I've directed for Wagner College Theater on Staten Island. I directed Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson for them last winter, and that was an amazing experience. And I am in pre-rehearsal production meetings and planning stages for the musical Working, based on the Fred Turkle series of interviews with American workers. We're getting ready to start that. So I'm going to be dividing my time between Staten Island and Stockbridge. I'll be rehearsing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Staten Island, and then performing Thursday through Sunday for the month of October until we close, and then I'll be on Staten Island full-time for a few weeks to open.
That's kind of like the best of city and country for fall foliage season. You can't ask for anything better than that.
I know. It's going to be an awful pretty drive. Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm really, really excited.
And I guess, how far in advance can you plan what you're actually going to do work-wise? I know that a couple of weeks ago, Daniel Kramer from Chester was on Artsbeat Radio, and during the break, during one of the underwriter breaks, he said to me, well, I'm so excited you're having Tara Franklin on. She did this show at Chester earlier, and did you know she's doing this and this and this upcoming? And how far can you plan out what you're going to do?
Oh, man, as far as any theaters would like to offer. It's great. I'm actually kind of hitting a wall. I've known what I was doing, micromanaged within an inch of itself for a couple of years. And when the musical Working opened, the film directing at Wagner in mid-November, I have absolutely nothing on the horizon for the first time in a long time. So I'm going to really enjoy, I call it being gainfully unemployed. I'll be gainfully unemployed through the holidays, which will be great because my work often makes the holidays very difficult. So I'm really looking forward to just being at home with our son and the dogs and just being domestic. And then in 2019, I'm open. If anyone wants an actor or director or composer, I'm here. I'm a gun for hire.
Is Tara back now?
I am.
Okay.
Hi, Tara.
Hey, Tara.
Hi.
Welcome back. We got a chance to talk about James's music while you were away.
Oh, good.
Briefly. But let me ask you what your plans are after doing Naked at Berkshire Theater, because you've got a couple of interesting projects on the horizon.
I teach at Smith. I'm part of the adjunct faculty there. So, except for this coming week while we're in tech, I teach there a couple times a week, which has been really great. I've been there since I've been there for a couple of years now.
What do you teach?
I teach acting, and I was able to actually direct a show there last spring, which was really exciting. It was sort of my first foray into the directing world, and I had a ball, and it was a great place for me to just sort of figured that part of my career out. Very supportive artistic community, and what a great faculty and staff there. So I felt really lucky to be able to do that. And then so once Naked closes, I will just be teaching, but I also have a small business that I do in the holidays called Sweet Sam Bakes, and I'm gearing up for that as well. So that takes a lot of time around the holidays for me. And then next year, I think I will be doing a show at the Majestic Theater in West Springfield. I don't know if it's announced or anything, but I think that I will be working on one of their shows as well. So that'll be fun.
So you get a chance to work in a variety of venues in the area. As you're teaching acting, are you seeing some talented students at Smith?
Oh, yeah. They've got lots of talent. And then because I had the opportunity to direct the show, I got to sort of pick the best, and that was really exciting. What's really fun is that it's not, the classes that I teach are for majors and non-majors. And so it's always fascinating to see sort of things come out of the woodwork from students who maybe had never taken an acting class before, or who don't have it as their major, but just really enjoy that aspect of their life, and so they kind of plunge right in. And I find that so rewarding, because here's people who don't have any sort of preconceived notions about what it is, or even, they're just kind of trying it. And it's always really exciting to see what happens with that. And yes, it's a wonderful program. They have a lot of great classes. Their facilities are amazing. 2 beautiful theaters there. So, and I've seen a number of shows there. Daniel directed something called The Wolves last year, which was just an amazing showcase of talent, and so that was exciting. So I've got great students, and every semester I'm delighted and surprised by the amount of talent.
Did either of you actually study theater academically in a college setting, or did you study it in the studio setting?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Did either of you actually study theater in an academic setting like at a Smith College, or did you study theater more in a studio situation?
Oh, okay. So I went to NYU for my undergrad, and so what's interesting about that program is that they have a collaboration with different studios around New York. And so my 3 years at NYU, I was, it was through the school, but I was taking classes at a studio. So that's kind of the unique thing about NYU. And then after that, I took a couple years and worked in the Berkshires and was an artist in residence at BTF, and then decided to go to grad school at University of Connecticut, which is where Eric and I started to really work together, and so that was my schooling. So yeah, I've never taken any classes outside of the academic setting. My training has all been in that, and it's also just, just talking to Haley yesterday, and talking about school, and I said, the most learning I've gotten, I've been able to do is just through practice. I mean, this is, when you do a play, that's when you learn.
Now, Eric Hill has always been known as a great teacher, and Eric and I worked together at Stage West, and he was teaching a form of theater study called the Suzuki method, which is not the Suzuki method that you think of little kids learning the violin. No. But he taught this at a variety of places, and a lot of people gravitated to learn this technique, and then it boosted Eric as a teacher. So I guess that's something that we all have in common, knowing Eric Hill.
Yeah, well, he was my teacher at undergrad. I got my bachelor's degree in acting at the University of Connecticut, and he was the head of performance then. So that was the core of my training there at school, and Sarah's at grad school. So I've been lucky enough to be hip to the way he does things since the late 90s. It's been great.
I find it interesting because I get to cover some of the shows that they do at University of Connecticut. Only the Nutmeg Summer Series, which is really great musicals, but over the last few years have gone to some of the productions that the Connecticut Repertory Theater has done. I had no idea that Eric had been involved in that. I mean, I knew he was at UConn, but no idea that he had been involved in a program like that is as good as it is. But I saw a production of the Laramie Project at UConn maybe 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, that to me was one of the best pieces of theater that I've ever seen. And the people that come out of there are so gifted.
Oh, yeah. Was that directed by Bob McDonald?
I don't remember. Unfortunately, I don't remember who directed it, but I remember some vivid things about the production. And it was in their very small studio theater, not the one that they normally do plays in. But I thought it was one of those situations where you're in 100-seat theater and you're so wrapped up in it. And I get that same feeling sometimes when I go to a show at the Unicorn at Berkshire Theater, or go to Chester, when you're in a small space and it envelops you and you're so much a part of what's going on in the play.
Oh yeah, there's no substitute for that intimacy. It's an incredible theater going experience, and as a performer, I love being that close to the audience. It's just electric.
I mean, I felt that when I got to see Tara in the Edward Albee play last year.
So good.
I mean, there was such a vibe between what was going on stage and the audience reaction, and you don't get that when you see a play at the Fitzpatrick stage or the Colonial. So to me, the idea of seeing Naked in a 100-seat theater, or maybe it's a little more seating than 100, but to see a group of actors that are literally 5 feet, 6 feet away performing, it must be a thrill for you guys, because you really can sense whether the audience is with you or not.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels extra live when you're that close.
And the space is so rewarding, also because Eric and other actors who have been performing on that stage for a long time know how to use the space to their advantage, so that the audience can even, have a more in-depth experience. I think that there are times when things can be directed on a thrust stage like that, and they don't know the space, they don't know the space well enough to really utilize all of the wonderful attributes. So I feel, especially working with Eric and working with other actors who've worked on that stage before, there's a way that you move about that space that just is so generous for other actors if you know the right way to use it.
When the two of you are performing, can you feel the energy from an audience as you're performing, and does it change how you're approaching a particular performance, or do you kind of have to put the audience in the back of your mind?
No, they're always in front of my mind.
Yeah, I mean, with a play like this, we have to have a hyper-specific game plan that cannot be altered. The audience energy can feed us along, but if I'm feeling that the audience is maybe sort of stunned or confused, we have to stay true to the foundation we've built in rehearsals. Some types of modern comedy, for example, you may be able to sort of play with tempo live, let people catch up or whatever. This Naked is a freight train, and as soon as it starts, it doesn't stop until it's over. So it's, I'm not even sure. Like, it'll be interesting. I wonder how much of the audience reaction we'll really be feeling. I think it's going to be, I don't know. I'm so curious. I'm morbidly curious about this play. I'm so excited to do it.
Now, I know that Berkshire Theater Group has scheduled through all of its productions this year these things called talkbacks, where after a performance, the actors and maybe a director or a playwright will sit down and answer questions from the audience. Have you been involved in any of those, and do some of the questions surprise you?
Oh, yeah, I love talkbacks. I think talkbacks are a great way to connect with the audience. People inevitably have theories about things that I've never thought of. The talkbacks for the aliens in particular were really interesting. And I really hope we get to participate in some from Naked, because I can only imagine that the conversations that will get started as a result of seeing this play, especially with how topical a lot of the themes are. We were discussing that before. I think people are going to have a lot to say about it, and I'm looking forward to listening to them.
I had never attended a talkback before, generally because I have to run home and write a review, and I'm clock watching at that point, going, how far to midnight do I have? But I stayed for the one after the first show of the season. The show was called Church and State, which I found to be a fascinating play. And listening to what the audience, the questions that were coming up, were so different in some cases than what I was thinking as I was watching the show. And I was surprised that there could be so many divergent points of view from 100 people sitting in one small room watching one play, that it's changed the way I view what I see when I start to write a review, realizing that my opinion, it could be completely different than the opinion of the person sitting next to me at a play.
Oh, isn't that the best? It just makes me want to keep doing theater even more. I love it.
I love it. I love it when people have different points of view, and I think that theater is an exchange of ideas from audience and performers and all of that. But hearing it expressed by other audience members, I had never heard something like that before, except for, being in a lobby at intermission and somebody saying, well, oh, didn't so-and-so look great? Or I love that costume, or this or that. And I remember going to see the Edward Albee play, and somebody talking to somebody else in the audience, talking about Paris costume and say, "Oh, I wonder where I could pick up something like that. Isn't there a place in Lee where you can buy outfits, and stuff?" And I thought, well, that's theater lobby talk, but to hear people really express how they felt about a performance or a concept just blew me away.
Yeah.
So,
people are going to have plenty to wrap their minds around with Pirandello's Naked. I'm very, very excited to hear what people think.
has your view of the play changed since you've gone into rehearsal?
I don't know if it's changed necessarily, but deepened. It's interesting sometimes, and it depends on the show, how you can go to work and you can have the rehearsal and then you can go home and kind of just sort of, leave it there. Not that you're not thinking about it, but that it's, there's something about this one that has taken hold of me anyway. And I know James and I have talked about this quite a bit. That everything else seems to sort of be faded. And it's hard because we have a lot going on at home. But this has been a really intense process for me. It's exhausting, and every time I'm done with rehearsal and I get home and I'm like, I just feel like I just got hit by a bus. It's just.
I think I said exactly the same thing earlier. It's so true.
No, it's an incredibly emotionally draining ride, and and it's interesting because I'm trying to teach at the same time, and to try to switch gears like that that's been a great challenge for me, but only a testament to how powerful this piece is, and I hope that we can convey that to an audience.
Well, let's just remind folks that Naked by Pirandello, directed by Eric Hill, runs at the Unicorn Theater at Berkshire Theater Group on their Stockbridge campus. Performances begin next week and run through October 28th. And if you're interested in finding out more about Naked or getting tickets, it's berkshiretheatergroup.org. And got to remind folks that the Unicorn Theater is a small space, so if you want tickets, get them early. It's not one of those theaters that you can just walk up 20 minutes before and get a great seat. So plan ahead for this one, and of course we'll be letting you know through the Westfield News and as well as here what Naked's about and how we liked it after it opens. If Eric Hill and Kate McGuire were to say to the two of you, we'd like you to co-star in something next summer, what do you have a wish list of plays that you'd like to do together?
Oh man, what have we talked about? I'd love to do.
I would love to do another Pinter, and there's some wonderful pieces out there. I've always wanted to do Betrayal, which is a great Pinter play. So I know I've expressed interest in that, but I don't know. We so seldom get the opportunity. We don't even pipe dream. So we're just like, I have my own wish list, and I think James does too, but God, if we were actually be able to do a show together, that's just a dream. I don't know.
Well, after Naked is done its run, James said that come the wintertime, you guys are less scheduled and structured, so maybe I'll get you on the air again and we can talk about your wish list for next year.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
We're running out of time this morning, and I want to thank Tara Franklin and James Barry, two of the stars of Naked at Berkshire Theater Group. It's the one play this season at Berkshire Theater Group that I've been most excited about and anticipating the most because I've never seen a Pirandello play on stage before. Mm-hmm. And from what I've read about the play, it's very timely right now with what's going on in the news. So I suggest that all of you run and get tickets, and I want to thank both of you for joining me. Look forward to seeing you next weekend in Naked at Berkshire Theater Group.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Next week, we'll have Julianne Boyd from Barrington Stage Company on for the entire hour. She'll be previewing the Glass Menagerie, the Tennessee Williams classic that will be playing at Barrington Stage for the month of October. And you thought that theater was over on Labor Day, but theater now goes all the way through the fall and into the winter at all of the major stages in the Berkshires. So that's something we can be looking forward to. And of note, 40 years ago this week, a musical opened on Broadway called Eubie. It featured Gregory and Maurice Hines, the Hines brothers, in a musical about the music of Eubie Blake. And that was Julianne Boyd's first Broadway show 40 years ago this week. So I'm looking forward to having her here next week to chat about the Glass Menagerie and the good things that have happened at Barrington Stage. We're going to leave you today with a piece of music sung by the late actress Marin Mazzie. Now, Marin Mazzie died last week after a valiant battle against ovarian cancer, which she was very public about. She had appeared in several Broadway shows and been nominated for Tony Awards in Stephen Sondheim's musical Passion, in the musical Ragtime, and the revival of Kiss Me, Kate, where she starred as Kate opposite Brian Stokes Mitchell. But in 2007, she did a dramatic performance, or I should say a non-musical performance, at Barrington Stage in A Streetcar Named Desire. And she played Blanche Dubois. And she and her husband, Jason Daniele, used to perform a cabaret act together, which they did at Barrington Stage. And they were scheduled to perform at the Mahawi in Great Barrington this past June. But the show was canceled at the last minute due to Marin Mazzie's health. But she was a phenomenal musical theater actress who did a lot of work here in Western Massachusetts, and probably best remembered on a variety of original cast albums. And we leave you today on Artsbeat Radio with a song that she made famous in the original Broadway cast of Ragtime. And I thank my engineer, Peter Coles, and the staff here at 89.5 FM WSKB. This is Mark Auerbach from Artsbeat Radio.
There was a time our happiness seemed never ending. I was so sure that where we were heading was right. Life was a road so certain and straight and unbending. Our little road with never a crossroad in sight. Back in the days when we spoke in civilized voices, women in white and sturdy young men at the oar. Back in the days when I let you make all my choices. We can never go back to before. There was a time my feet were so solidly planted. You'd sail away while I turned my back to the sea. I was content, a princess asleep and enchanted. If I had dreams, then I let you dream them for me. Back in the days when everything seemed so much clearer, women in white who knew what their lives held in store. Where are they now, those women who stared from a mirror? We can never go back to before. People out there unafraid of revealing that they might have a feeling, or they might have been wrong. There are people out there unafraid
WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental.